We must all stop using buzzwords. My professor once told me that repetition is actually fine in academic writing. We use a certain word for a reason, and going on a synonym frenzy makes it look silly like you're writing with a thesaurus up your ass. But I say, fuck all that. Don't you guys have standards? Themes and such Orifar and we must kill Fujimoto pretentious elitist fandoms media objectively good, bad, consume, or merchant shonen bros, film bros, and fans. You have to kill yourself. You just have to. Our feeds are algorithmically curated bubbles. If you complain that CSM defenders are all being annoying under any post slightly negative on the ending, you fail to realize that the same exact thing is happening but reversed on someone else's timeline, mainly mine. Stop it. You have subhuman IQ. Y'all can't be getting mad at easy stuff. Instead, you have to get mad at bigger things, like what I tell you to get mad at. I like the Chainsaw Man ending. I think there's a lot to like and quite a bit to dislike. Part 2 was a wild ride and the ending landed. It stuck to CSM's overarching themes while, at least on the surface level, kinda leaving others to the wayside. What gives, bro? There's plenty to discuss. As for when the discussion will start, well, you tell me. To be a bit biased here, I will say that I will always pick pseudo-intellectuals over casuals. At least they know how to have fun. I want to not necessarily defend or criticize the ending here, but more so give 50 lashings to the people spouting the worst criticisms known to man. Don't particularly have anything to say for some of the praise people think for it. I think all power to them. Even if some of them seem to be reading into invisible ink text written in the margins, hating is a lost art. And alas, it is up to me to inform you all again. But first, Chainsaw Man's ending is about addiction, the cycle of desire, and the dark side of heroism. These have always been the core themes of CSM, with a heavy dose of abuse and sexuality and some sprinkles of whereas le bad in there. Pochita was like a drug. He enabled Denji to keep going without actually healing. Denji is stuck in the cycle of short-term desire, never able to reach satisfaction, stuck hating to his role as a hero that has him pitted against his actual goals. The goals being happiness and to live a nice life, but his tragedy is that he just can't. He will always want more, and the influences in his life only exacerbate that problem. And I think that's quite resonant to our time, as well as much more coherent on the reread. It's sad. Anybody who's been in the situation of having your short-term dreams fulfilled only to realize it's not enough can likely relate to this. Part 2 sets up these dilemmas of having to choose between two paths, and Denji keeps on not making real choices, going for the secret third options. Ones that tend to generate more destruction than anything else, much to his dismay. Pochita realizes this, and whether it's a great choice or not, he decides to erase himself in hopes that Denji will live a life free of this drug. Pochita being the drug here. Even if that life isn't sunshine and rainbows, it's his life free of having to be the hero, the one who must constantly be thrown into dramatic danger and not be able to just truly make choices for himself, for his sake. But he can still be heroic under public safety. I guess it's not perfect, you know. Rereading Chainsaw Man, it's easier to see how this ending was set up. Whether it was well executed or not is a different question. TBH, if you've read Fire Punch, you especially have an advantage since it's really quite similar to Agony's relationship with heroism. And I think it was much more well said there. But given Fujimoto's obvious state of burnout, I think this was our best outcome. Fujimoto chose thematic closure over narrative closure, and so trying to make sense of the ending through any lens of narrative logic is going to get you into problems. You're better off reading it much more liberally and trying to get your own themes and such out of it. And I see how that's frustrating, truly I do, but to spot off shit like themes are just the point of the story, and even more specifically, they are the emotional resonance of the story. Not its core, because that's something different methinks. I think art fundamentally is always in service to its theme, its points or point. And to say themes and such is incredibly stupid since like, no shit. It's just a matter of if you like the methods or not. If you find yourself at a loss or confused at the end of the story, that isn't a bad thing. But moreover, the idea that nothing mattered because the universe reset always makes me mad. It's like, why not? I know it hurts, I'm sad too, you know. But like, 1, semantically, it does matter. We can make it matter. We can give meaning to it. That's kind of how being human works, you know, that's kind of how art works. 2, the fact so many people are upset means that it did matter, because otherwise you wouldn't care, right? It's proof that regardless of what the characters remember or feel, that we, the reader, have our own feelings and memories that don't get wiped/reset. But most of all, 3, why does it not matter? Because it didn't happen? Well, most fiction actually never happened. Because it's over? Because we can't imagine our optimal future in it? A canon future anyways. Chainsaw Man is our dead fiance. Imagine they die or gets amnesia and can't remember you, and it's not looking like it'll come back. Did your relationship never matter? Are you unchanged? Would you be the same person without this person? Did you learn nothing from your life with him? If the point of the relationship is to marry and have a family and live it out till you die, does this impossibility now mean it just means nothing? It's just a coping mechanism. My pop psychology degree tells me this take is all cope. You want it to not matter because it hurts trying to make it matter, or accept that it does matter, that it did matter, and guess what? I think that's very poignant to Chainsaw Man as a whole. It hurts confronting what actually happened and trying to forget it is easier. I read a book that had a similarly flabbergasting ending. The author went on this whole tirade about how writing is worthless lies and everything he wrote was a waste of time, full of sin, made for the dregs of society. The difference here is that this book has sparked a lot of great discussion. That book is called The Canterbury Fucking Tales by fucking Geoffrey Chaucer, the father of English literature. So many people talk like fucking chumps. You can't have a universal reset because then your story ends up not mattering. Fact, how could Fujimoto be so stupid? How did he not know this? Did they not teach him this during writing media school? You have to resolve all plot lines and develop all characters and make sure they all get equal screen time, and also if they do bad things, you have to condone it. And also you must have exposition, then climax, then resolution to get a B, and to get an A, you have to use a highlighted vocabulary of the week, okay class? I have a knee-jerk reaction every time I hear should or can't or has to whenever it comes to art, because art doesn't have to do anything. It's the artist laying out something to their vision and us trying to make something out of it. That simple. This reset is frustratingly open. It's not even particularly clear whether it's supposed to be happy or sad, melancholic or bittersweet, but that makes it all the more clear that we the reader must now take it upon ourselves to reflect back on the journey, all the what ifs, all the didn'ts, and try to make something out of it. If you tried and still didn't like it, then that's perfectly valid. I'm shitting on the people who didn't even let a thought cross their mind. Like, I'm being very generous here with how the ending seems to handle Aki and Makima and public safety, but not everyone was born with an unyielding kindness like mine, so. No one gives a fuck about an unresolved plotline. If it doesn't get resolved, that says something about the work or other circumstance. In this case, both. Very rarely does it actually mean the writer forgot. I think that's a phrase used by non-artists because it's actually quite hard to forget major things while writing, if you know. Granted, I guess it can happen for like slop TV and hyper-commercialized stories, but I'm gonna be honest here, if you're watching that shit, it was over for you before it even began. We must ask about the obscurities, the whys. Why did we stop talking about war? Or sex stuff, the Gunnar stuff, the Diddy-ass stuff. Sometimes you have to remember that everybody is 15 and that you are reading stories for 15-year-olds, and you have to not get mad because that's embarrassing. I think we owe it to Chainsaw Bro to have a generous reading, not because we're nice, but because it's a brain exercise that'll make us smarter. It improves the moment's most prized skill. I dare not say it out loud. Not everything needs to be some tight little mystery sci-fi show where everything gets explained in the end, because leaving the audience with questions is too hard. What does it mean that Aki's not there? Is he happy off somewhere else because Gundevil likely didn't happen? Or is he one of the seniors Denji mentioned? One that Denji seems to really take after? What about Makima? Does Pochita never existing means Makima never exists? What does that say about her character? Is Pochita actually Denji's heart? Or is it just a visual gag thing? Bad news, chump. Powers are just plot devices for themes. I think it's a good reminder that conquering magic / power systems are a relatively new thing, most of it being born from the D&D gamification of modern fantasy. Many authors take inspiration from these games where the fantasy was under scrutiny of consistency for the sake of balance, something that is largely a non-issue in stories. For anime, there's a big injection of sports games and martial arts thanks to big mangas like Dragon Ball and Tsubasa, so you can see where all the rule stuff starts applying. You know, training tournament arcs and all that, that's battle shonen. Chainsaw Man is not a battle shonen, and I don't mean that it's smarter because of it or that it's different and unique, whatever. It's still very much a pulpy action comic, but it's not centered around technical battles with a lot of back and forth. It's centered on quirky moments and aesthetic set pieces. A power system balance is much more important in series like JJK or Hunter x Hunter because their systems are very directly calling into the themes of the story, and the balance is a part of that. Meanwhile, Chainsaw Man's power system is more loose and made of occult mysticism and allegory. We only get implied rules about how stuff generally works, with the only explicit rules being the contract. As far as I remember anyways. I think we as mentally enslaved shonen readers find satisfaction in this, but ultimately it's not bad writing. It serves its purpose and is cool as fuck while doing it. It's a chaotic system that plays on hubris instead of ideology and morality, akin to the old epics. Historically, powers were just bullshit. Gods and mythos have invincible level power scaling. One day they turn someone to a cow, the next they lose to a demigod. Most fantasy has soft magic or whatever, and that is more akin to what is normal of powers in general. Just bullshit with no real rules, only made to serve the themes, motherfucker. Feel free to discuss. I like discussion, but try to avoid saying dumb things. I'm not exactly the ending's #1 defender, I just am an pseudo-intellectual English major and get mad over discourse. Here, I'll leave some of my bits to not just scream at the clouds. Ahem. I believe that many of the characters who don't appear are those who's had their lives directly or indirectly worsened due to the existence of Pochita, and by extension Denji kinda. More concisely, it's people who are better off not having met Denji. That's why our biggest focus is Power and Naota, people who are, for the most part, were livened up by Denji. Their devil nature is what makes them suffer and what Denji helps with. Aki and the rest are only helped by him in small ways to stuff Pochita started in the first place. I'm not gonna insult your intelligence and explain stuff like Denji throwing the chainsaw and what it means, but I will say that its being so short is pointing to the fact that the friendship with Power and relinquishing of Chainsaw Man are the most key aspects of this manga. Every other theme only being toyed with was more or less because it wasn't meant to be the core of the story. Abuse and manipulation are a big part of Chainsaw Man, but only in how they distort Denji's view of those two keys. Most of the subject matter in CSM is a detour to Denji's just figuring out life, figuring out the country mouse and city mouse dilemma. I think these tweets capture what I think about the point of the ending. Sorry for outsourcing, I'm a bad YouTuber. My last most radical note is that I actually don't think the story really differentiates between country mouse and city mouse. This would deserve its own video, but I don't make promises anymore. I mean, look at the gap between the ending and this video. I think it wants to say with Denji that the country mouse will become the city mouse after enough time. That's how human brains work. We do, at some point or another, always end up wanting more than we can ever have. Just some food for thought.